I have not done any quarterback rankings on YouTube yet, so that's exactly what we're doing today by going through my top 12 quarterback rankings in 2024 fantasy football. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare them to expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros to see where exactly I line up versus those guys over there. So go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. So 1, 2, and 3, I just wanted to package these guys all together because I think these guys particularly have the best shot at being the quarterback one in fantasy football. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes. Those are my guys right now. I think they have the best shot at being the first quarterback in fantasy football this year. Now, I'm in alignment with all of the expert consensus rankings on this one. They've got them exactly how I have them ranked right now. So there's not exactly a disagreement that we can go over. The reason I think they all could be league winners is because with Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, the point is obvious. They're still running quarterbacks who are in the prime of their career. So there's not really a worry for me that they're just all of a sudden going to lose rushing volume and be less important on a rushing, on a consistent basis from a rushing perspective. I think Josh Allen, you could argue, gets a downgrade in targets without Diggs. I can understand that for sure. But if you look at Diggs with Joe Brady, whenever Ken Dorsey was fired, he was far less important in that offense. So I'm just banking on the fact that Keon Coleman could work to a point and Josh Allen still gets a ton of rushing upside. And then with Mahomes here, obviously with Mahomes, he's always a lock to be like a top 5, top 6 guy. I think Xavier Worthy puts him over the top this year. That's what I personally believe. I am not calling him the next Tyreek Hill. What I am saying is he will be their best deep threat since Tyreek Hill. And I think that's what Mahomes has been missing since Tyreek Hill since he's not been there. So I think for me, with Mahomes, it gets unlocked, that deep ball again. And that, of course, opens everything else up over the middle of the field for guys like Rashee Rice and for guys like Travis Kelce. Now, at number 4 here, I've got a slight disagreement with ECR. I've got CJ Stroud at number 4, and they have him at number 5. So here's my thing with CJ Stroud, right? CJ Stroud, I've drafted him a ton in Underdog. I advise people to do the same. I like CJ Stroud. I think he's got a good shot being a top 3 quarterback for sure. CJ Stroud is also in a situation where his wide receiver room just improves as well. Not only his wide receiver room improves, his offensive line improves. His run game is going to improve as well. So everything lines up for a better, more efficient season as long as he can build off what he did last year. Because last year, it was just Nico Collins and a little bit of Tank Dell. A lot of Tank Dell, but towards the end of the season, he didn't have Tank Dell. Dalton Schultz probably becomes less important with Stephon Diggs there, but he's going to have weapons galore. And the offensive line did get better, and the run game did get better as well. So I think CJ Stroud has all the tools there for him to succeed. He just has to be the one who takes it. And I personally am a big believer in CJ Stroud. At 5 and 6, I've got Lamar Jackson and Anthony Richardson here. Now, Lamar Jackson is a little bit lower for me. He's below CJ Stroud in expert consensus rankings. They've got him at number 4. And I'm right on line with Anthony Richardson in expert consensus rankings. Now, both these guys obviously have the rushing factor in common, right? Lamar Jackson coming off an elite season and has always been a rusher. He will continue to be a rusher as well. Anthony Richardson showed lots of upside in a very small sample size, which honestly makes me a little bit uncomfortable ranking him this high. The reason Anthony Richardson in particular is this high is because of the fact that he's coming into a season with a coach that I trust. With Shane Steichen, I trust him to develop Anthony Richardson. I trust that his weapons on offense are good enough for him to grow with as well. Now with the shoulder injury, I do wonder, maybe they don't run him quite as much as we think. Or maybe he's not as good as we thought he might be. I think both those things are possible. I'm going to err on the side of believing in the offensive system around him. Now, with Lamar Jackson, I think he's top 5. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sure people will wonder why he's ahead of CJ Stroud, for the reason being that there's just a feeling that I have with Lamar that he's not going to be able to do what he did last year. Maybe I'm just a discreditor of Lamar. I don't know. I've always been kind of lower on Lamar than consensus anyways. I acknowledge the fact that he's a great rusher, but everybody needs to take this into account. He throws significantly less passes than everybody else who is a top 5 guy for me. significantly. So if he doesn't have a great running season, Lamar Jackson is not going to provide you top 5 upside. And of course he will, so I do believe he's a top 5 guy. At number 7 here, I've got Jordan Love. And he's in a little bit of an island here because for me, he's number 7 while expert consensus rankings has him at number 10. Now, this is the biggest disagreement that I have with expert consensus rankings until the last tier. And I think for me, with Jordan Love, what has to be taken into account with Jordan Love is that last year was his first year as a starter. Now, also, I think the reason that he was able to take a lead and become a really good player last year was because he had years behind Aaron Rodgers. But it does not take away from the fact that he literally didn't get on the field as a starting quarterback until 2023. He came in moments like here and there in other games and other years, but he was not that team's starting quarterback until 2023. When you split the two halves of his season up, you see the difference that the second half of the season made. He was a top 5 quarterback the second half of the season. He was elite in fantasy football. And I just think it gets better. The reasons I do is because he's got all of his weapons intact. They're all on their rookie deals, aside from Josh Jacobs. His offensive line is totally intact as well. The coach is still intact. And the coach, Matt LaFleur, is massive for Jordan Love. There's just nothing that anybody can point to me that suggests that he will not improve. There's nothing. Jordan Love is on a trajectory similar to CJ Stroud, but probably not as high because I just believe in Stroud the player more. But Jordan Love, guys, is a great pick in fantasy football, especially on Underdog today, where you should draft and get Jordan Love because he is a quarterback 10 on Underdog going around the 8th or 9th round. So go on Underdog today if you haven't done so already. Use code FVN to get a first-time deposit match up to $100 and $250 in bonus cash as well. Now at number 8 here, I've got Kyler Murray, and his expert consensus ranking is at number 9. Now, my thing with Kyler Murray is that I think he will have a good season. I think Kyler Murray will come in, and with a full season under his belt, recovered from a torn ACL, I think we'll see the upside rushing again that we really haven't seen from him in years. So I think that Kyler Murray's rushing upside is going to go up. I also believe in the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best wide receiver 1 he's ever played with. He had DeAndre Hopkins, who in his prime years, better than Marvin Harrison right now, but when he got DeAndre Hopkins, he was not in his prime. It's not arguable. There's numbers to back that up. So I think with the first time with a real wide receiver 1 in his prime, as long as Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't flop, Kyler Murray has a consistent target. And in addition, he's also going to have Trey McBride, who's in his 3rd year and became a rocket ship himself last year. So I think with Kyler Murray, there's too many things that are advancing him. And it's not like I have him ranked as a top 5 guy, but I definitely could see him being a top 5 upside type of player. Joe Burrow at number 9 actually kind of hurts me to put him this low. Expert consensus ranking has him at number 7. Now, I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. I think the Bengals as an offense, very, very good when everybody's there. There's just some realities that I have to give my audience about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I don't know if everybody understands this, but there was an orthopedic surgeon who came out and discussed Joe Burrow's injury. And the specific injury that Joe Burrow had was that he's coming into the season off not like an ACL tear. It's not like an ACL tear or even like a Tommy John. The specific injury that he had pertained to a nerve in his wrist that is very, very small and hard to repair surgically. So the orthopedic surgeon was talking about how the ACL has like a 90 to 100% hit rate of success, which is a good number. This particular surgery for Burrow has about a 70% chance of success. Now, that's still above average, right? Like, that's still better than 50-50. But that's a lot less. And from what I've read about him, he's going to experience discomfort. I want to rank Joe Burrow higher than this. And I believe if he's there and fully healthy, he will be good. But Joe Burrow does worry me. I do really worry about Joe Burrow and how he can recover. And if the surgery was a success, that's great. He'll recover at some point. But this year, I have particular worries about him and what the upside that he might bring will be. 10, 11, and 12. My last tier of guys here, I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, Jaden Daniels has to be in the top 12 or Caleb Williams has to be in the top 12. And I'm not arguing that those guys don't have the upside to be top 12 guys. I'm going with the boring guys, though, because I think they will be. Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, and Jared Goff. Brock Purdy has an ECR of 11, so we're basically right on line. Herbert has an ECR of 16. And Goff has an ECR of 14. With Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, here's what they have in common. They're all quarterbacks that are particularly mobile, right? Like there's no Kyler Murray level upside, and they don't have the arm talent of a Joe Burrow or a CJ Stroud, right? I would argue Herbert probably does, but been largely disappointing with Herbert the last several years. They're also in situations where all of those teams project to be run-first teams. I can understand that. Let's break them down one by one. Brock Purdy has all the weapons that he needs. Justin Herbert, we could argue, not very strong. Jared Goff, very similar to Brock, has the weapons that he needs to be successful. And both of those guys have been top 12 quarterbacks largely over the past 2 to 3 seasons. With Justin Herbert in particular, the big disagreement I have with ECR is that with Justin Herbert, yes, their offense will be run first. But with Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman together have had lots of success with quarterbacks. Lots of success. And I think we're going to see a lot of success with Herbert. Is he going to be the guy throwing 600 balls a year this year? No, I don't think he will. I think his passing volume will drop. What's going to go up is his efficiency numbers. His efficiency will go up because this is what Greg Roman does to quarterbacks here. So I get it to a point where it's like less passing volume, worse weapons. We got to drop him here. I think we're going a little too far. I think where he's ranked in my rankings is right, obviously, or else I wouldn't rank him here. But I think that he's a guy who has largely been cast aside because of the fact that people are concerned with the lack of weapons and a new coach coming in to implement a run-first team. This guy can still throw the ball very well, and he's going to get more efficient at his craft in 2024 fantasy football. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below and who your guy is at quarterback in 2024 fantasy football.